The great throne hall was silent. It was so large that even a whisper could echo like thunder. Tall black pillars reached up into darkness. Alien guards stood in long rows, their armor sharp and cold, their eyes watching everything. At the center of the hall sat the alien queen on her living throne, calm, powerful, and feared across the galaxy. And standing alone before her was a human. His name was not important. What mattered was that he was human, and humans were considered weak by most alien races. They had no great fleets, no ancient empires, no terrifying weapons. Many believed they survived only because stronger species ignored them. But today, one human stood before the most dangerous ruler in the galaxy. The queen studied him carefully. Her eyes glowed softly, not with anger, but with curiosity. Humans were strange. To her, they spoke too freely. They looked directly at rulers. They did not kneel unless they chose to. "Human," the queen said, her voice smooth and heavy, filling the hall. "Your kind survives where others fail. Tell me why." The human did not answer at once. He took a breath. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons. One wrong word could mean death. "Your Majesty," he said calmly, "humans survive because we trust each other. We build families. We protect those we love." A few aliens hissed quietly. Family meant nothing to most of them. Power was everything. The queen leaned forward slightly. "Love is weakness," she said. "It makes rulers soft." The human shook his head slowly. "No," he replied. "Love makes people strong. It gives them a reason to stand when they should fall." The silence grew heavier. No one had ever spoken to the queen like this. She rose from her throne. The movement was slow, controlled, and terrifying. Her long cloak flowed behind her like living shadow as she stepped down toward the human. "Careful," she warned. "Your words walk close to death." The human met her gaze. His heart was racing, but his face stayed calm. "I speak only the truth." The queen circled him, studying him as if he were a puzzle. "Your species has no queens," she said. "No kings, no true rulers. We choose our leaders," the human answered. "And we judge them by how they care for their people." The queen stopped in front of him. Her eyes narrowed. "And how would you judge me, human?" The hall froze. This was the moment where lives ended. The human hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay silent. But humans had survived by speaking when silence would have been safer. He spoke. "I think," he said slowly, "that you are strong. But strength alone does not make a great ruler. You protect your empire. You keep order. You do what must be done." The queen waited. "And," he continued, "your people follow you not just because they fear you, but because they believe in you." A low murmur spread through the hall. The nobles did not like this. The queen's eyes softened for just a moment. "Go on." The human swallowed. He had already gone too far. There was no turning back now. "In my culture," he said, "a leader like you would be respected, trusted. You would be seen as someone who could build a future, not just rule the present." The queen tilted her head. "And what would you call such a leader?" The human did not think. The word came from the heart, not the mind. "A perfect wife," he said, meaning it as the highest respect his culture knew. The reaction was instant. Weapons were raised. Guards moved forward. Alien nobles shouted in anger. Some cried out for his execution. The human realized his mistake too late. He straightened his back, ready to face the cost of honesty. The queen raised one hand. Everything stopped. The hall fell into total silence once more. She stepped closer until only a breath separated them. Her voice dropped so low that only he could hear it. "Then," she whispered, her words sending a chill through his bones, "claim me." The human froze. He did not understand. But he knew one thing. The galaxy had just changed. And nothing would ever be the same again. The throne hall did not return to noise. It remained silent, heavy, and tense, as if the walls themselves were listening. The alien queen had spoken only 2 words, yet they carried more power than any. Weapon in the room, no one moved, no one breathed too loudly. The human still stood before her, his mind racing. He did not understand what he had just been pulled into, but he could feel it in his chest. Something ancient had been awakened. The queen turned away from him and faced her court. "By the old law," she said, her voice now loud and clear. "A claim spoken before the throne cannot be ignored." Gasps filled the hall. Alien nobles shifted in fear. Some looked angry. Others looked terrified. One of the elders stepped forward, his scales dull with age. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "this law was written before humans ever touched the stars." "Law does not care for time," the queen replied coldly. "It only cares that it is obeyed." The human listened closely, though none of this had been explained to him. He only knew that every eye in the room was now on him, not as prey, but as a threat. The queen turned back to him. "Human," she said, "do you understand what a claim means?" He shook his head slowly. "No, Your Majesty." "Then listen," she said. She walked back to her throne and sat, her posture strong and calm. "A claim is not a promise," she explained. "It is a bond. In our culture, to call a ruler a worthy partner is to challenge fate itself." The human felt the weight of her words. "I did not mean to challenge you." "And yet you did," she replied. With honesty, the nobles began to whisper again. One of them shouted, "This is madness. A human cannot stand in royal tradition." The queen's eyes flashed. "Enough." The room fell silent instantly. She raised her hand and pointed at the human. "By law, he must now complete the rite of worth." The human's stomach tightened. "What happens if I fail?" The queen answered without emotion. "Your death will be quick, and your species will be judged as liars." The words hit harder than any blade. The human did not beg. He did not shout. He took a slow breath. "And if I succeed?" The queen looked at him for a long moment. "Then humanity will no longer be ignored." That promise echoed in the human's mind. For centuries, humans had struggled to be seen. Now one man carried the weight of an entire species. He nodded. "I accept." The nobles reacted at once. Some laughed, some protested, some looked afraid. The queen stood again. "Prepare the first trial." Guards moved quickly, forming a wide path through the hall. As the human followed them, he could feel hatred and fear burning into his back. They led him into a smaller chamber made of glowing stone. Strange symbols covered the walls. The air felt alive. An alien official stepped forward. "The first trial is not of strength," he said. "It is of truth." A platform rose from the floor. At its center was a crystal sphere, pulsing softly. "You will place your hand upon it," the official continued. "It will read your intent. Lies will destroy you." The human stepped forward without hesitation. Humans lied often, but not to themselves. He placed his hand on the sphere. Light filled the room. Images appeared in the air. Humans building cities. Humans protecting children. Humans standing together against impossible odds. The sphere glowed brighter. The nobles watching from above fell silent. The official's voice shook. He does not seek power." The images changed. The human standing before the queen, speaking honestly, accepting death without fear. The sphere dimmed and went still. The queen watched from the shadows. For the first time in centuries, her expression softened. "Truth," she said quietly. "He has passed the first trial." The nobles did not cheer. They feared what came next. Because if a human could pass ancient alien law, then the balance of the galaxy was already shifting. And this was only the beginning. The second trial did not take place in a hall or a chamber. It took place in the open sky. The human stood on a wide floating platform high above the alien queen's capital world. Below him stretched endless towers of metal and light. Ships moved like silent shadows through the air. The wind was cold, sharp, and real. This trial was meant to break him. Across the platform stood 3 alien challengers. Each one was chosen by the Royal Council. Each one was stronger, faster, and older than any human soldier. Their armor was heavy. Their eyes showed confidence. The queen watched from a distant balcony. Her face revealed nothing, but her attention never left the human. An official stepped forward. "This is the trial of worth," he announced. "You will not fight with weapons. You will fight with choice." The human frowned slightly. "Choice?" The official nodded. "Each challenger will offer you a path. Only one path leads forward. The others lead to death." The first alien stepped forward. He was tall and broad, with scars across his face. "Choose strength," he said. "Kneel before the queen and admit your kind is weak. You will live. Your people will serve." The human looked at him calmly. The second alien stepped forward, slimmer but sharp-eyed. "Choose silence," she said. "Say nothing. Refuse the trial. You will die alone, but your people will be spared." The third alien moved last. His voice was low and cold. "Choose. Defiance. Stand as equal. If you fail, your species will burn." The platform grew quiet. The choices were clear: survival, sacrifice, or risk everything. The human closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he spoke. "I choose defiance." Gasps echoed across the platform. Some aliens laughed. Others shook their heads. The first challenger smiled. "Then show us why you think you are equal." The ground beneath them shifted. The platform changed shape, forming walls and paths. This was not a test of strength. It was a test of thinking. The challengers moved fast, trying to surround the human. Their goal was simple: force him into a mistake. The human ran. He did not try to fight. He watched. He learned. He waited. One challenger blocked his path. The human changed direction instantly, leading the others into each other's space. They collided, surprised. The queen's eyes narrowed. Minutes passed. The human was breathing hard, but he did not stop. He used the environment. He used timing. He used patience. Finally, only one challenger remained. The last alien stood across from him, breathing slowly. "You are clever," he admitted, "but clever is not enough." He charged. The human stood still. At the last second, he stepped aside and pressed a hidden control on the floor. The platform shifted again, creating a sudden drop. The alien stopped just in time. The human could have pushed him. He did not. Instead, he held out his hand. "You don't have to fall," the human said simply. The alien stared at the hand. Confusion crossed his face. No one had ever offered mercy in this trial. Slowly, he stepped back. The platform stabilized. Silence fell. The official's voice shook. "The trial is complete." The queen stood. "He has shown worth," she said. "Not through dominance, but through restraint." The nobles whispered angrily. Some were afraid now. The human looked up at the queen. "I don't want your throne," he said. "I just want my people to be safe." The queen studied him deeply. "And if safety requires sacrifice?" she asked. The human answered without hesitation. "Then I will stand first." For the first time, the alien queen smiled, not as a ruler, but as someone who had waited a very long time to hear those words. The galaxy was no longer testing humanity. Humanity was testing the galaxy. Night covered the capital world of the alien empire. From high above, the city looked peaceful. Towers of light shone like stars trapped on the ground. Ships moved slowly through the air, guided by silent control systems. But inside the royal palace, peace did not exist. The alien queen stood alone on a wide balcony. Her crown rested on a nearby table, untouched. Without it, she looked different, less like a symbol, more like a living being. The wind moved her long cloak as she watched the endless city below. Behind her, the sound of soft footsteps echoed. The human had been summoned. He approached carefully, unsure why the queen had called him at such a late hour. There were no guards nearby, no nobles, no audience, only her. "You may speak freely here," the queen said without turning. "This place has no throne." The human stopped a few steps away. "Why did you bring me here?" She turned slowly to face him. Her eyes no longer glowed with power. They were quiet, thoughtful. "Because today," she said, "you passed trials no one expected you to survive." "And yet, I feel no victory." The human did not answer. He sensed this was not a test. The queen walked closer. "All my life," she continued, "I have been trained to rule. I was taught to suppress fear, emotion, and desire. A queen must never show weakness." She looked past him, as if remembering something far away. "Every bond I formed was measured by usefulness. Every word spoken to me was chosen carefully." The human nodded slowly. "That sounds lonely." Her eyes met his sharply. "Loneliness is a luxury," she said. "Rulers do not have it." He hesitated, then spoke gently. "They do. They just are not allowed to admit it." The queen looked away again. For a long moment, she said nothing. "When you spoke to me in the throne hall," she said, "you did not speak like a subject. You did not speak like a rival." "What did I speak like?" the human asked. "Like an equal," she replied. The word hung between them. No one has done that in centuries. The human shifted slightly. "I did not mean disrespect." "I know," she said. "That is why it mattered." She walked toward the edge of the balcony and placed her hands on the railing. "Do you know why I answered your words?" He shook his head. "Because in my culture," she said, "to be called a worthy partner is to be seen beyond power. It means someone recognizes the person beneath the crown." The human absorbed her words carefully. "And what did you see when I spoke?" She turned to face him fully now. "I saw honesty, no fear, no hunger for control." She stepped closer, her voice softer. "I saw choice." Below them, the city lights flickered. "Power has never been a problem for me," she continued. "Control has. Trust has not existed." The human took a careful step forward. "Trust is not given," he said. "It is built, slowly." The queen studied him again, searching for lies. She found none. "What would you do," she asked, "if you held my power for one day?" The human thought for a moment. "I would listen," he said. Before making any command, the queen let out a quiet breath. "That answer frightens me." "Why?" "Because it makes sense," she replied. A distant alarm echoed through the palace. The queen's expression hardened instantly. "Some among my court do not want you here," she said. "They fear what you represent," the human nodded. "They fear change." She turned back toward the palace doors. "And change is dangerous." She stopped and looked back at him. "But necessary." For the first time, the queen removed her crown and held it in her hands. "This crown has ruled my life," she said. "Tonight, it does not." She placed it on the table and walked past him. "Rest," she said. "Tomorrow, the empire will test us both." As the human watched her leave, he realized something powerful. The trials were no longer about him. They were about her, and the future they might shape together. The palace never truly slept. Even in its quiet hours, hidden systems watched. Doors whispered open and closed, and secrets moved through the dark. High above the glowing city, far from the queen's balcony, a different meeting was taking place. In a narrow chamber beneath the palace, 5 alien nobles stood in a circle. Their faces were tense, their voices low. They were rulers of fleets, commanders of armies, and guardians of ancient tradition, and they were afraid. "The human has gone too far," one of them hissed. "He speaks to the queen as if he is equal." Another struck the floor with his staff. "Worse, she listens." Silence followed. That truth frightened them more than anything else. "She has allowed him to pass trials meant to destroy challengers," a third said. "If this continues, the old order will fall." The eldest among them, his eyes cold and sharp, spoke last. "Then it must end tonight." A plan formed quickly. It was not new. Betrayal had always been the tool of those who feared change. They would remove the queen, blame the human, and declare him a traitor who tried to seize power. Above them, the palace lights flickered. Unaware of the danger, the human sat alone in his assigned chamber. The room was simple by alien standards, smooth. Walls, soft light, and a single window overlooking the city. He should have been resting, but his mind refused to slow. He thought about the queen, about her words, about the weight she carried. Then his communicator buzzed softly. A human symbol appeared. His eyes widened. The human delegation had been placed far from the palace, under heavy guard. A message now meant only one thing: trouble. The message was short. Movement in the palace. Heat signatures, possible coup. The human stood at once. He had no weapon, no authority, no protection. But he had a choice. He left his chamber quietly, moving through unfamiliar corridors guided by basic maps he had memorized earlier. Humans were good at patterns, good at preparation. A shadow crossed the hall ahead. Alien guards. Not royal guards. The human stopped. He listened. Their voices were tense, rushed. "They move now," one said. "Before dawn." The human's chest tightened. He turned and ran. At the same time, the queen stood in her private chamber, reviewing ancient records. She sensed it before she heard it, the shift in the palace. Loyal systems going dark, commands failing to respond. Her eyes narrowed. "So," she whispered, "it begins." The doors burst open. Armed nobles stormed in, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. "By order of the council," the eldest declared, "you are removed from the throne." The queen stood slowly, calm as stone. "You mistake yourselves for authority." Before anyone could act, a voice echoed from the doorway. "Stop." The human stepped into the room, breathless, unarmed, and very much alive. Every weapon turned toward him. "You prove our point," the elder snarled. A human standing in royal chambers. The human raised his hands. "You fear me because I speak. You fear her because she listens." The queen looked at him, surprised and then understanding. "This is treason," one noble shouted. "No," the human replied. "This is fear." Alarms rang suddenly. Palace systems came back online. Human tech signals merged with alien networks. The nobles froze. The queen raised her hand. "Stand down," she commanded. Some guards hesitated. Others obeyed. The eldest noble lunged forward. Before anyone could react, the human stepped between him and the queen. "I will not let you rule through lies," the human said quietly. The noble stopped. He saw something new in the human's eyes. Resolve. Security forces flooded the chamber. The traitors were restrained, their power gone in moments. Silence returned. The queen turned to the human. "You risked everything." He nodded. That's what humans do when someone stands alone. For the first time, the queen bowed her head not as ruler to subject, but as one leader to another. The empire had nearly fallen, and humanity had just saved it. The sky above the capital world burned with motion. War fleets filled the stars. Alien ships formed long lines of glowing metal, weapons charged and ready. On distant screens, human vessels appeared, smaller, fewer but steady. A single wrong signal could turn fear into fire. Inside the Grand Command Chamber, tension pressed down like heavy air. The alien queen stood at the center, calm but alert. Around her, commanders shouted orders, officers argued, and nobles demanded action. The failed coup had shaken the empire. Many believed only war could restore control. Humans cannot be trusted, one commander growled. They interfere in our rule. Another shouted, they saved the queen. Without them, enough, the queen said. Silence fell instantly. She looked toward the human standing beside her. Not behind her, beside her. He felt the weight of every gaze. Humans were not meant to stand here. Not in the heart of an alien war council, yet here he was. The fleets are waiting, an officer said. Give the order. The queen did not move. She turned to the human. You spoke of leadership, of listening. Now the galaxy watches. What would you do? The room held its breath. The human stepped forward slowly. I would talk, he said. Anger erupted. Talk? A noble sneered. After betrayal? The human nodded. Especially after betrayal, he gestured toward the star maps. Your empire is strong. That is clear. But strength that relies only on fear will always face rebellion. He looked around the chamber. Humans learned this the hard way. The queen watched closely. We fought wars over power, the human continued. Over land. Over pride. And we nearly destroyed ourselves. The commanders listened despite themselves. What saved us, he said, was not bigger weapons, it was choice. We learned to stand together because we wanted to, not because we were forced. A commander laughed bitterly. Ideal words from a weak species. The human met his gaze. Weak species don't survive extinction-level threats. Weak species don't adapt. Humans do. The queen raised her hand. Continue. The human took a breath. If you attack now, you prove the traitors right. You show the galaxy that fear controls you. He turned toward the main display. But if you open communication, if you show restraint, you change everything. The room was silent. Open a channel, the queen ordered. Shock spread across the chamber, but no one disobeyed. The image of the human fleet commander appeared on screen. He looked tired but steady. We are ready to defend, the commander said. The human shook his head. Stand down. The commander hesitated, then nodded. Across the stars, weapons powered down. The queen stepped forward. This empire does not answer betrayal with destruction, she announced. It answers with truth. Her words spread instantly. Allies paused. Enemies listened. The human continued. Expose the traitors. Share the truth. Let the galaxy see that unity is stronger than fear. Data streams flooded the network. Proof of the coup, names, plans, lies revealed. One by one, rival fleets pulled back. The queen turned to her council. This is humanity's power, she said, not domination. Influence. Later, as the fleets dispersed and the stars grew quiet again, the queen stood with the human in silence. You ended a war before it began, she said. He shrugged. Lightly. Humans are tired of wars. She studied him. You have changed my empire. He looked at her. You allowed it to change. The queen smiled. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw humanity not as fighters, but as leaders. The stars were calm again. Where war fleets once waited, only quiet light remained. Messages of peace moved faster than ships ever could, spreading the truth of what had happened inside the alien empire. Across the galaxy, many watched in disbelief. A human had stood beside the alien queen, and the empire had listened. Inside the royal throne hall, the final gathering was about to begin. The hall looked the same as before, vast, cold, and powerful, but the feeling inside it had changed. The nobles stood in ordered lines. Guards held their positions. but their hands were relaxed. No weapons were raised. At the center of the hall stood the queen. She wore her crown once more, but it did not weigh on her as it once had. Her gaze moved across her court, steady and clear. When she spoke, her voice carried authority and certainty. "By ancient law," she said, "a claim spoken before the throne must be answered." All eyes turned toward the human standing alone before her. He felt the moment press down on him. He was not afraid of death. He was afraid of failing the hope placed upon him. The queen stepped down from her throne. In the history of the empire, this had never happened. She stood at his level. "You spoke without hunger for power," she said. "You stood without fear. You protected not only your people, but mine." She paused. "Do you still stand by your words?" The human took a breath. "I do," he said simply. "Not as ownership, not as control, but as partnership." A ripple moved through the hall. The queen studied him carefully, searching for any shadow of desire for dominance. She found none. Then she raised her hand. "I accept the claim." The hall erupted not in anger, but shock. Ancient systems awakened. Symbols of old law glowed across the walls. The empire itself recognized the moment. The queen placed her hand over her heart. "From this day forward, the empire will not rule through fear alone. Humanity will stand as ally, not subject." She turned to her court. "Those who resist future may step forward." No one moved. The queen returned her gaze to the human. "You will not wear a crown," she said. "You will not command my fleets," he nodded. "You will advise," she continued. "You will speak freely. And when I forget who I am beneath this crown, you will remind me." The human felt the weight of the moment. "I will." Later, under an open sky filled with stars, the queen and the human stood alone once more. No court, no guards. "The galaxy will change," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied, "and it will resist." She smiled faintly. "Then we will face it together." Far away, new alliances formed. Old enemies reconsidered their choices. Humanity's name spread not in fear, but in respect. The queen looked at the human. "You never meant to claim an empire." He smiled softly. "I only spoke the truth." She looked back at the stars. Sometimes that is enough to change everything. And so a new era began, not of conquest, but of unity, where humanity was no longer underestimated, where power listened, and where a single honest sentence reshaped the fate of the galaxy.